Willie Waffle on the line right now. Good morning, Willie. Good morning. Willie is our
Good morning.
reviewer,
How you doing?
our movie reviewer. A couple quick questions. We watched the crazy movie last night on video on demand. The Wonder Woman movie, the creation of Wonder Woman and the lie detector test.
Oh, God, yeah. Boy, you didn't realize Wonder Woman came from such seedy material,
Wow.
did you?
Wow. So this is a professor and his wife at Harvard. He ultimately created the lie detector test, but also created Wonder Woman, and it came out of a twisted sexual relationship between the professor, his wife, and a student.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman was somewhat of an S&M figure, if you will.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not a comic book person, so is that how Wonder Woman was born?
Well, that's how she was born, but obviously, was adapted over the years to become the superhero that she is now.
Yeah, because of bondage and all sorts of crazy sexual things.
That
with
explains
Wonder
her
Woman.
skill with the whip.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the whip and the chains and the lasso and
But the lasso, that it also explains the fact that what would happen when she put that rope, the golden rope, around you. Mm-hmm. You would tell the truth, which comes back to his lie detector test. It was quite interesting until I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah.
The other one is, and I talked to you about the controversy over Black Panther last week. You gave this movie 4 Waffles, I believe, said it was a very good movie.
Yeah.
But the controversy still is ringing out there. The fact that it's an all-black cast and black producers. Why is this such a big deal?
It really seems to be going in two directions here. On the one hand, Marvel is very much promoting this as an African-American movie, with a cast, with the producers, with the directors, all being African-American, and holding that up as a very big positive. But the world that we live in today, the world where everybody has to pick a side, and everybody has to say, you did it too. Now you've got this other group saying, well, that's kind of racist that you didn't want to have a bunch of white people in it, because that's what you say if I made a movie without African Americans. And so everything becomes this big debate and this big fight in America anymore.
I know. And meanwhile, could you imagine a movie with all white people? I mean, I just can't imagine. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, that's the thing. Almost all movies are basically white.
I don't know about
Well,
that.
they really are. When you really look back at movies and the history of movies, go ahead and look. You might be surprised. To say there's an all-black cast, I don't think it's such a big deal.
I don't think it's a big deal, but boy.
Just go back and look.
Okay. Which
through
movie?
history.
All of them?
All of them. I mean, certainly there are movies that have black casts and black cast members, but when you really look through the history of Hollywood, there has been racism in Hollywood, and even today, it was just a few years ago, we were talking about a very white Oscars. I mean, rescue me, Willie. Rescue me.
Well, no, and what I would say is, look at how Hollywood kind of categorizes movies these days. The big deal about Black Panther is that it is trumpeted as an African-American movie, and it is being pushed as hard as any other superhero movie. It's being revered as any other superhero movie. Ryan Coogler, who is the director of this movie and the writer of this movie, did a film a few years ago called Fruitvale Station, which also had an African-American cast. It was an African-American story, but didn't get anywhere near this attention, even though it kind of was in the Oscar talks for a while. And so that's the difference right now with Black Panther, is that it is kind of breaking out of the stereotype of, well, that's a movie for African Americans. So it's a movie for everybody, and there are a lot of stars in the movie who happen to be African American.
Pretty wild. Anyway, a movie worth seeing.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, come on. You got great action. I still think Chadwick Boseman, the guy who plays Black Panther, is one of the top 5 actors in the business today, right now. When you think about all the roles that he's played, I mean, he played James Brown. He's just fantastic.
I want to ask 2 new movies coming out this weekend. Both will be playing in our local theaters. Let's start with what happens when couples get together for a mundane game night. It turns into murder and mystery.
Yes, because Jason Bateman and his wife, played by Rachel McAdams, love games. It's what brought them together. They're very competitive, and they have this game night where his brother is involved, and his brother, played by Kyle Chandler, is kind of richer and better looking and more interesting than Jason Bateman. So Bateman's always kind of been jealous of him. Well, they think he's arranged for a murder mystery, but it turns out he's really being kidnapped. And so the people who are playing the game think this is just a very interesting little twist on a murder mystery game, but they don't realize his life is truly in danger.
Mm.
And it's, I gotta say, it's silly and it's goofy and it's outrageous, and at least it sticks with that. I mean, how many times do we see these movies that want to be wild and then pull their punches, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, let's learn a lesson at the end? No, this movie is just slapstick and potty humor and just wildness all the way through. How about I'm going to say 2.5 waffles. I am shocked it did not stink.
Okay, all right. Well, that is a surprise. And the other one that is new that we'll be seeing here is Annihilation. What do you think? What is this?
Annihilation is, how do I want to put this? It's just a boring, trippy movie that feels like it was fueled by, like a nightmare fueled by food poison. I mean, it gets really crazy and out there. Natalie Portman as this scientist and this former member of the military. Her husband went on a covert operation and disappeared for a year. Now he's been found, and he went to this secret place in America where it feels like something is changing genetics as we know it. Biology is changing. Physics are changing. There's something weird going on here, and she's supposed to try to figure out what it is. But, they forget about that mystery at some point. It really does kind of start off as an interesting film as we try to figure out what is the secret power that is involved here. But eventually we forget about that, and it just tries to be as weird and cryptic as it can be, and I think that turns people off, and I think it becomes boring. I'm going to say 1 waffle for Annihilation.
All right. Both movies are playing here locally. Interestingly, as we were searching, Willie, for something to watch last night, we were watching the trailers. Isn't it interesting how the trailers have changed, the style of the trailers, from certainly from the 60s and 70s, where they were almost like little mini movies, to even as late as, there was one movie we were watching from 1992. The trailer was so different in style from the trailers that we know today. It's really interesting.
Well, and trailers used to feel much more like commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the really old trailers from the 50s, I mean, you have a narrator in there. You'd be like, "Ooh, Cary Grant is being charming again," and he'd always be leading the whole action. And now, you have these trailers which are produced almost as well as the hundreds of millions of dollars that are put into the movies.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. They're like little movies on their own, right? I mean, and it really does draw you in. I mean, if it's done well, it draws you in. But even as late as the early '90s, they were more. They were more of a style that was similar to what was done in maybe the '60s and '70s. Kind of interesting. Yeah. All right, Willie Waffle, interesting stuff. Thanks, man. We'll talk again next week.
Hey, sounds like a plan. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. It is wafflemovies.com is the website.